Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio, TV, any listening, any video device around the world. Happy to have you with me. This is the broadcast for September the 17th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is indeed Constitution Day. What a wonderful, blessed day that is. The Constitution, ladies and gentlemen. I know it seems to be ignored in the hearts and minds of the American people. It is just a piece of paper when you don't care about it. But if we, the people, would absolutely stand tall, if we would stand our ground and use the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America, and absolutely insist on the incredible checks and balances therein, we could restore this country, ladies and gentlemen. It takes Americans who are educated and Americans who insist you work for us. That's the key to the exercise, ladies and gentlemen. The Constitution often gets the blame. Sadly, it's not the problem. It's the solution. Why do I say sadly? It's not sad it's the solution. It's sad that we don't take it as it needs to be for the solution. We want to build a better mousetrap. We want to look somewhere else. Never mind the 250 years of one of the most successful governments the world has ever known. Is it perfect? Far from. Is it broken? Feels like it. I take courage. I take hope. And I look to the checks and balances to chain down even Donald Trump, all the bureaucrats that want to gain too much power. The Constitution and the checks and balances can change that game. All right, without further ado, James Edwards with me, thepoliticalcesspool.org, well-known talk show host in his own right. Every weekend, check out thepoliticalcesspool.org or listen on demand during the week to your heart's content. James, welcome back, sir.
Sam, so much has changed since I was last with you 2 weeks ago. Talk about a turning point in the USA. What has happened since the murders of Irina and Charlie Kirk may have changed this republic forever, and I know you've been talking about it with expert coverage and commentary here on Liberty News Radio for the last several days. We had a huge panel on Saturday night on TPC, and I'm sure it'll be a topic of discussion today as well.
It will continue to be top of the list for discussions for quite some time. It was certainly bloody September, sad to say, but true. However, it casts my mind back to September 17th, 1862, James, the bloodiest day in American history. Thisdayofhistory.com writes about it. I don't know that they take the side of it exactly that we might, but we'll get into that in a second. It's the bloody battle. And how do you say that? Antietam Creek? Is that how you say it?
Antietam.
Antietam Creek is
up
the
in
battle. Go ahead.
Yeah, up in Sharpsburg, Maryland. I got your headline on that, and I'm going to try to dig back into my historical recall. So this was a tactical Confederate victory. It was one of their first big raids up north, really one of only a couple. 25,000 casualties, which, is a lot. I mean, enough to make it the bloodiest day in American history on this continent, at least. But, I mean, when you compare it to things like Stalingrad, where they had 1 million, I guess we're lucky. But it causes you to wonder, are more bloody and bloodier days coming? It's possible.
Pray the answer's no. Sadly, predict the answer is yes, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I bring up this day in history and this battle is because it was really a battle that I think most people don't understand. Most people believe, Civil War, slavery, side of the North, It isn't that simple, ladies and gentlemen. It was more about states' rights than it was about slavery. It was more about economic reality than it was about slavery. It was more about a president. I know a lot of the Southerners don't like Lincoln. I look at history a little differently. But all I can say is this. Lincoln violated the Constitution big time. And there's no way to back away from that reality, James.
Well, I mean, again, what was that war except for a litigation of a political and constitutional question that, could not be solved in any courtroom up into and including the Supreme Court. They could not come to terms, and so there was a war. And, of course, it was a very real question at that time if states could freely choose to join the Union, why could they not freely choose to leave it? And of course, I was always and still am on the Confederate side of that question, but history went a different way.
Well, and they didn't really want to leave the United States at first. It was the tyrannical abuse that eventually made them feel like there's no other choice. And, I don't want people to call me up and criticize what I'm saying. I'm just trying to fairly discuss both sides of this discussion. The victors oftentimes write the history, and therefore, you don't really hear the just cause of the other side. If I had to pick, I would say that, the Southern group was 95% right. The North was 5% right, meaning we didn't have to have a war to get rid of slavery if that's what it was about. Really, though, it changed the affairs of our nation. Instead of the states being in charge, the general government being limited in scope, and basically the servant of the states, it changed the game to where the general government seems to think it's somehow in charge and the states are political subdivisions. That's really kind of the repercussions that we're experiencing that just seems to be getting more and more and more out of balance the longer the republic is alive, James.
Of course, like any war, that war was about finances, economics, power, land.
Control.
It was not fought over some control. Yes, exactly. It was not fought over some sideshow question like slavery. I mean, to suggest that, slavery had existed all over the world. It still actually does exist exclusively in non-white countries, but all of the other Western
in America,
nations.
When it comes to Sam Bushman and the IRS, too. I have to swear to the penalty of
That's
perjury,
always a good. We're all slaves now. That's right.
Look,
we're all slaves to the IRS.
My money, and I gotta swear that I've told them everything under the penalty of perjury, and I go to prison and they steal my house and destroy my life if I don't obey. Right? So it's either slavery or jail. My buddy Ken Cromar can tell you all about that. By the way, he's in jail now because he believed they didn't know income tax. Anyway, I digress, except to say, look, these issues are very difficult to understand. And for those of you who are supporters of the North, understand there's two sides to the story. And what you've got to do is take off your, picking sides hat. And you've really got to kind of look at, each issue independently and say, where do you stand on that given issue? Am I for slavery?
Well,
absolutely not. It's evil and it's wrong. At the same time, you kind of ask some questions about, hey, do states have the right to self-autonomy or to, even Antonin Scalia and Sheriff Richard Mack's Supreme Court case said, hey, there's dual sovereigns here. The general government has a very narrow defined scope. Go look at your Constitution. And the states and the people respectively have broad and enumerated authority and powers. If that doesn't lay out the way it was intended, I don't know what does. And since the Civil War, it's been turned on its head, James.
Well, Lincoln was a politician, and he was all things to all people, as a lot of politicians are. If you look at some of his speeches, and this is public record, this isn't any sort of conspiracy or out there type of thing. When he would speak in Northern Illinois before he was president, he would be an abolitionist. When he was in Southern Illinois, he'd be for not meddling with the institution of slavery or for complete repatriation of all blacks back to Africa. The whole thing about slavery didn't even really become an issue until after the aforementioned, interestingly, Battle of Antietam. It was after that the Emancipation Proclamation, he needed a cudgel, he needed some sort of a political thing to gin up support, moral support. There was not a lot of support for the continuance of that war by late 1862, early 1863, and then you have the Emancipation Proclamation. But this whole thing that America, the United States, wouldn't have done what every other Western nation eventually did or had done before then, abolish the institution of slavery.
Example,
they all did it without going to war. I mean, that's the thing. They all did it without going to war. It would have happened here. A lot of the Confederate leaders were in favor of doing away with slavery. 3% of the American population at the time of the war owned slaves. Okay, so it was just a political tool that he needed in the middle of that war to keep it going and to win re-election.
And since I want to get rid of slavery, that's why I'm asking Donald Trump to abolish the IRS and do it today. Come on, President Trump, let's get it done. You don't believe in slavery? Shut it down, brother, because they're evil, they're wrong, they're unconstitutional. We ought to celebrate that on Constitution Day, the shutting down of the IRS. What a better day to announce that than today, Donald. Is there a better day?
Well, and of course, that form of slavery didn't even exist until the early 1900s. I mean, we made it the large swath of the history of the American Republic without the federal income tax, and so you could certainly go back to that.
Anyway, very interesting topic. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here just to trash Lincoln. I know the Southerners really hate him because they believe he was wrong. I think he was wrong. One of the things I think is, oftentimes presidents have a different perspective. God seems to prevail in their lives many times. And the question becomes, is it most important that the nation stay together as a preparation for the Savior to return? Very fascinating questions. Hang tight. Liberty Roundtable Live. All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not here to trash those in history. It's very easy to look at history, from our hindsight 2020 and criticize people. I know the Southerners don't like Lincoln. I understand that. I also realize he violated the Constitution big time. I don't make excuses for that. At the same time, I do honestly believe that people change when they become president of the free world. When they become commander-in-chief of the freest nation on the planet that looks to God, not government, there becomes a special relationship there. And I think God prevails many times in their lives. And I'm not for slavery. I'm not for the fighting between the North and the South. I'm not saying the North is right in the war. I'm not saying any of those things. I am saying, though, that I believe it's critical that the nation stay together as a light on a hill before the Savior returns. And I think that's really, really important to understand. Did you want a final word on this before we move on, James?
Well, again, I think the issue is with regards to that question of slavery and its role in the war between the states is that it is absurd to believe that 600,000 American men had to die, not even counting the collateral damage, civilians, women, children, all of it, just terrible bloodshed over the question of an institution that was absolutely going to die out in very short order with the onset of mechanization. It would have been much cheaper for all these plantation owners to just have machines to do the work than the slaves that they had to care for from cradle to birth or forever long they had them. I mean, this whole Hollywood myth that do you know how much slaves cost? I mean, again, this is just a practical, real conversation, folks. They didn't buy them. It'd be like buying a Lamborghini just to tear it up. I mean, they cared for them. They gave them health care and food and shelter and all of that. It's hard to sort of relate that by modern day standards and so-called morality, but yes, it was going to go away, and you didn't have to have a war to do it. It was
I'm not
terrible,
defending
terrible
slavery
tragedy.
or defending any of that, but I will say this though, you look at government, and you've got communism, which is flat out government ownership, control, and everything else. Then you've got fascism, which is government control but private ownership or whatever. Then you've got socialism, which and you've got all these different roads, but they all lead to communism. And I submit to you, there's different roads that are slavery, whether we call them that or not. Some are soft slavery. For example, I live in my house. I have to pay all my own bills. I have to pay for my own health care. I have to do all these things. Plus, I have to pay the government my massive IRS taxes. I submit it's a form of slavery. But I digress. I look at the blacks today and say, it was bad for the slavery they were in yesteryear. But Cliven Bundy brought this up and got attacked big time when he did, but he was right then and he's right now, which is this. What about the modern day women that, man after man after man impregnate them, then they're gone. They're hanging out in the hood or whatever they're doing, finding other chicks to be with. And then the girl is just basically, government daddy is in charge and funds everything for them. And then they live in these project housings. Go check out Chicago and Oakland. And I can keep going if you want details. But all I'm telling you is you look at that and you go, isn't that a form of slavery too? They're all on a government check. They can't make money or make very much money, or they lose their check. And the more children they have, the bigger their check becomes. And they're living in government-controlled housing. And yeah, the details have changed, but has the real principle changed? In many sad cases, I don't think so. Now, I know a lot of people are going to really beat me up for those statements. They're going to say, oh my gosh, Sam, you're so evil. No, I'm 1,000% against slavery. And I believe we're all God's children, and we should behave like that. We should be kind and considerate to one another. But we also got to remember, you can't just say, oh, the slavery of yesteryear was evil and horrible, but yet let the things that are continuing today continue. Another example is this Jeffrey Epstein thing. Hey, is his slavery, sex trafficking cartel carrying on without him? Is he even really still alive? See, we don't know any of those things, and we can't trust government to get the answers. All we know is this. Donald and everybody else seems to want to stonewall the Jeffrey Epstein discussion. We're now moved to Charlie Kirk, and rightly so in many ways, but at the same time, hey, we can't let that die either. Is that a form of slavery that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in? See, there's many forms, James.
Well, I will certainly say, as a proud son of the South, that slavery was the biggest mistake this country ever made. And I can say wholeheartedly that I certainly wish the slaves had never been brought here for a whole lot of reasons people don't want to talk about. I mean, you're talking about now, I mean, one of the legacies of this is the absolute destruction of all of our major cities. I mean, the National Guard's in Memphis now. Why? Why do we have a crime problem in Memphis? Interestingly, I mean, I think, and maybe even ironically, you say that it's a new form of slavery. I mean, their behavior. I mean, it's almost, you can have too much freedom as well. You have the freedom to do all sorts of things here in America now that you didn't used to be able to do. Men can marry men, and you can, lop off your genitals, and that's something that doctors are allowed to do. I mean, they shouldn't have the freedom to do that. And but when left to their own devices, this is
first do no harm, baby. Whatever happened to that,
Well, I'll tell you, what's interesting.
Used to do it to prevent the women from, I don't know, being tempted or whatever weird. We were 100% against it. Now that it's supposedly a choice oftentimes made by parents to minors, it's celebrated. I mean, we've gone psychotic as we turn against God's commandments and God's ways is really the bottom line.
It's an interesting question because, I mean, in some of these blue states now, what is it, Sam? I mean, guidance counselors are able to have these conversations with these impressionable kids, and the kids make the decision, and it's not only sort of against school policy, it's illegal in some states for guidance counselors to tell the parents what these kids are up to, and then if the parents go against it, they get Child Protective Services visiting them. I mean, again, that's too much freedom.
When the people are wicked, everybody suffers. When the people are righteous, everybody's blessed. It's that simple of a reality, and it's been that way through all history, through all generations of time, James.
Well, you and I have always had a little bit of a quibble on some of these big meta questions. And when it comes to principles, my principle always is this what's best for our people? So, for instance, I can take totally opposite sides on a question depending on the situation and it be completely ideologically consistent. And I'll give you one example with regards to freedom of speech. If it is in the interest of our people to have free speech, then I'm for it. If it is, using the power, well, and it goes back to secession as well. I mean, there are some forms of speech that absolutely should be outlawed, and this transgenderism is one example. Now, with even regards to secession, going back to where we were, if we are suffering under some form of a tyrannical government, then I am for secession, to get away from that. However, if the godly people have control of the institutions of power, I am for a strong centralized state to crush the spine of the enemy. And again, that seems like polar opposite contradictory things, but it is consistent when you frame it in, it's what's best for our people. Then you question, well, who decides that? Well, I think we can come to a consensus on what is good and not good for our people on a lot of big issues.
I wish we could. I think common sense people can come to common sense solutions, but I think today it's very, very difficult. Indeed, things that you and I would take for granted that are like, are you kidding me? And the example is literally in one of the most conservative states in the Union, Utah, in one of the most conservative places, Utah County, where I live. That's where in Orem, Utah, at Utah Valley University, they murdered Charlie Kirk. You would think everybody would pretty much be in agreement. You had people literally celebrating while blood was coming out of Charlie, while he was literally dying in front of them. They were celebrating. I had a firsthand witness that was there that saw it all go down and testified on the radio to that reality. That is shocking to me, even me, James.
I did not have it on my bingo card a week ago today. In fact, a week ago right now, Charlie Kirk was still alive. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. But I did not have it that his life would end in front of an all-white crowd at the hands of a, allegedly transgender Mormon young kid. It beats all you've ever seen. But a lot of this is, again, the poison, the absolute poison. I'll give you a great example here, Sam, of a little compare and contrast. So go back to, when was it? 2015, when Dylan Roof committed his murders of the black churchgoers in Charleston, South Carolina. The media, all of them, the SPLC, everybody in the media said, well, it was the Council of Conservative Citizens who radicalized Dylan Roof. Well, how do we know that? Well, allegedly, and I certainly have no evidence that proves that Dylan Roof ever even went to the website of the Council of Conservative Citizens, who were good friends of mine. But this whole thing pretty much...
But whether he did go there, not as irrelevant.
Well, what the point is, what they're saying was he became clued in to FBI statistics on interracial crime, black on white rapes and murders that the Council of Conservative Citizens had compiled through law enforcement released data and published it. And he went to their website and got it. So, I mean, I guess you could follow it up the tree and say, well, he was radicalized by the FBI's, interracial crime statistics. But nevertheless, they were using that They use that as some sort of a media talking point to shut down this, longstanding conservative organization. And then in Charlottesville, I mean, a precedent was set in the Charlottesville trial. This crazy mental gymnastics of the left, when you have criminally corrupt courts and media, they were saying, well, you could be engaged in a conspiracy and not even know your co-conspirators. Basically, if you were there, you were engaged in a conspiracy. And I'll tie that in when we come back to what's going on here with Charlie Kirk. But that's just a couple of examples for people to consider. And then I'll give you the other side and what maybe the state should be doing now if they have that will.
And then we have a bunch of interesting people filling in for Charlie Kirk on the Charlie Kirk Show on Loving Liberty Channel. It's our show, my show, and then Charlie Kirk's shows after that. So the good news is we got a bunch of interesting fill-in hosts. We'll tell you who they are and a whole lot more. You're listening and watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live. All right, this Denny Ray Harmony, she resigned from her position as a news anchor. I don't know if you call her a news babe or whatever else, at WICS ABC 20 in Springfield, Illinois, of all liberal places, effective immediately on September 15th, 2025. Why, you may ask? She claims she was suspended for airing a tribute to Charlie Kirk, describing him as her mentor and a significant influence in her life. Harmony stated on social media that she was punished for honoring Kirk on air, unlike others in the media who were penalized for mocking the assassination. She asserts that her resignation is in alignment with her own personal values and her faith and love of country. Harmony and WICS did not respond to requests for comment. Anyway, what do you think of this one, James?
Yes, that is. I had seen this and knew she was in media, or at least formerly in the media to some degree. I don't know if she was I guess it was a local TV network affiliate
TV,
job
she was a news anchor, not really a talk show host, though. And I just want people to understand the difference.
Yeah. Okay. No, gotcha. But no, she is very attractive, young conservative woman. And, there was another case of an equally attractive young nurse up in, I think, what was it, New Jersey or somewhere up in the Northeast, who had overheard a surgeon at the nurses' stations, sort of being excited about Charlie Kirk having been killed. And she's like, hey, what are you doing? You're a doctor. What about your oath? What is this? And she ended up getting fired, and now she's a big celebrity. She's a big celebrity now. She was on the Today Show or Good Morning. She was on one of the Fox shows. making the media round. So no, Benny Ray Harmony and this nurse. I mean, they're gonna land on their feet as a result of this. And so this is again very interesting. You have now the left getting canceled, getting doxxed, and to see the left crying about doxing is absolute cinema. Absolute cinema. But you're seeing all that. And then now, even in these couple of instances that you mentioned where conservatives had some repercussions for taking up, Charlie's cross, they're landing in even better positions. And I think that this will be no exception. I mean, wherever she's going to go, she's going to go somewhere bigger than where she was. I believe it.
We pray so. I hope that's right. And this is very interesting because, you kind of think do unto others as you would like them to do unto you, James. And, you kind of wonder with the conservatives and the backlash that's happening. And, we're doing the same. We're stooping to the low that they stooped to back in the day. And I know some think it's delicious. Some love it. To me, it's a mistake, though. I think it'll backfire. I don't think it bodes well at all. I think we got to hold the moral higher ground, James.
I think it is moral to do away with evil, frankly. And I am I am a salt of the earth type of guy, but I'm all for salting the ground of these people and what they stand for. And so again, that's where you and I for years and years and years, Sam, have talked about this. But I think that's just what you have to do with them. One side is going to.
Do you think it applies? Do you believe in the golden rule, James?
The golden. Yeah, we are doing to them as they did to us, and so no. I think we're adhering to
others as you would like them to do unto you. Would you like them to do that to you?
Well, but we live in reality, we don't live in the kindergarten church class. Whether we do to them as they've done to us, or do nothing to them at all, if they ever, God forbid, come back to have power, they're going to do it to us anyway. I mean, that's just the reality of it. 100% the reality of it. And they're not going to say, well, you know what, James and Sam, they were so good when they had us, when they had the upper hand, they didn't do these things, so we're not going to do it. No leftist has ever said that, nor will they. That's just the reality of life.
That's right. That's true. But I'm not responsible for their actions. I'm only responsible for mine.
Yeah, but I mean, is it immoral though to do away with immoral people? And I don't mean do away with them, fatally speaking. But
people, if you want to take them out, I think it's immoral. I think "thou shalt not kill" is a key component.
No, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about fatally taking them out. I'm just talking about taking them out of positions of influence and authority, taking out these woke teachers, taking out these woke so-called journalists. I think that is in service.
Teachers, James, back in the day when I had kids in school, I took out all the woke teachers. I never put them in the woke teacher schools in the first place.
Well, okay, but yeah, touche. And we homeschool as well. But I'm just saying. I mean,
we want to depend on these people, and then at the same time, we want to act like, hey, we got to take them out and control them or whatever else. And very interesting.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, talking about having the moral high ground, I think it's immoral not to do this if you have an opportunity to rid society and power, positions of power from people who believe like this. I do. And you say, well, who are you to decide? Well, somebody's got to decide. They certainly decide for us. It's a very serious question.
Donald Trump wants to get rid of licenses for CNN. Do you support it? Just shut their license.
Yes.
Okay. Their license goes away.
Yeah, listen. Yep. There's nothing
on Congress, or where do you think the authority comes from? See, that we've got an authority question and problem here. I understand your points, and I agree we need to rid ourselves of evil, but we've got to use the supreme law of the land. We've got to use the checks and balances to court our cause. We can't just. So where would the authority come from to shut this down? Would you go to the unconstitutional FCC?
Who would do it? I mean, Trump can't arbitrarily do it himself. I don't know if the Supreme Court. I mean, how would you do that? I mean, the FCC, yes, and they're not our people. I'm just saying though, if you could wait. Well, that's a good one too. I mean, there's only, again, when you've got 4 years and every problem in the world to address, it's hard to even know where to focus your energy and attention. I mean, that would be a good thing to do. But of course, that's not just something as easy as waving a wand and getting it done. But in some sort of a hypothetical scenario where you had absolute power to do things, yes, I would be in favor of that. And that's another thing about the Constitution. Talking about Constitution Day, this is a hard fact, and people may not want to hear this, and it may be something that causes folks to recoil. But the Founding Fathers, the people who wrote the Constitution, As you know, Sam, this is just a matter of historical fact. That Constitution was written for free white men of good moral character. Those were the only people who had the franchise at the founding of the Republic. This Constitution was never meant to be some sort of a document that could hold together a universal suffrage democracy, this Tower of Babel that we've become. So I see no way, with all of these squabbling nationalities, all of these different people who share nothing in common. I say this all the time: no common heroes, no common history, no common language, no common faith. But this Constitution, which we love and respect, and was a good instrument at its time, the nation that this is the law over is nothing like the nation that it was written for. And I don't see any way of correcting the problems of this country through the Constitution. You're going to have somebody like Francisco Franco come in and really just clean house. That's just all. It's a sad thing, but that's just the way it's gotten. We were asleep at the wheel for far too many decades and even centuries now. It's all gone awry, and I don't see it being put back together with these communist judges. I mean, all these different people. You've got these black women, black women who didn't even pass the bar, but they're judges now, and they let this thug go out. 14 times he was arrested. They let him out, and 14 priors. And then he, slits this girl's throat on the subway. The Constitution couldn't save her.
The Constitution's a piece of paper. And if people ignore it, it means nothing and doesn't have the sway that it has. If we consider it the supreme law of our land and use the checks and balances, and we think of ourselves as under God Almighty, and we look to his law for guidance, and look, God put the 2 great commandments and the 10 commandments together, 12 guidelines that if you obey them, there'd be no harm to anybody. But speaking of that, I think George Washington really set the standard in terms of a man who was humble, who had the ability. He was given all the authorization ever needed to become a king, to become a strong man, over the top. He chose to be humble and kind and chose to lead. He wasn't wimpy. He wasn't soft. He was one of the greatest generals the world's ever known. At the same time, he stood tall. And so this is a photo that we've got on the screen now of George Washington and this. We created an email over at lovingliberty.net, and it says, "Dear Sam and Julie," because I sent a copy to myself, right? Liberty Village officially opened its doors, or its gates, to the public for phase 1 on Saturday, September 13th, 2025. And hey, there was an amazing team there. There were activities galore. The grounds were beautiful. The speeches were moving. There was lots of people there. And the George Washington statue that Kathy Smith and Bert Smith, huge leaders in the state of Utah for liberty, who run the Loving Liberty networks. They had a Washington statue called Stand Your Ground. They donated it to Liberty Village. And they also donated the Liberty Hall clock tower. And it's all going to be displayed at the 13 Colonies Plaza. And there's the photo so you guys can all see what we're talking about. Tremendous progress on Liberty Village has been made. And we like that, right? It's big time. Pretty sweet. So we commend the folks over at Liberty Village. If you want to learn more, look up Liberty Village online. You can check out the incredible effort that this project is. It's in near St. George, Utah, and I'm heavily involved in this project. So is my producer, Zach, and others. And, just a cool photo from that. And, we're going to educate people about the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America. I believe the Constitution to be the political religion of our nation. I believe it's a document that's the only way we can keep America together until Christ returns. Isn't that the quest? To have a righteous people ready to meet the Savior when he returns? That's our hope and prayer and effort on this broadcast. Hang tight, James Edwards with me. You're watching and listening to Liberty Roundtable Live. All right, back with you live. I'm with James Edwards, and I get James's point, and I get, everybody that comes on with me says, Sam, you're way too soft. We got to get after it, buddy. Come on. I get it. But nobody has a solution. Whenever I bring it to them, I say, okay, what do we do? Everybody's like, I don't know, and their eyes glaze over. I think the Constitution is the only way back. Jesus Christ is the only real solution that we have left. And people just kind of want to say, Sam, prayer's not enough. Christ isn't enough. The Constitution's worthless, but nobody has a better plan. Well, the Epoch Times is putting together a survey that I find interesting. I took it. James, you want to see if you can read some of these questions on this survey and see what you think?
I've got them all right here, and it's an excellent survey, very thought-provoking, and everybody should take it if they can find it. So we've got 17 questions. You want to go through them one by one? I know we've got limited time.
I don't know if we have time, but let's do the best. Go through them one by one. You answer the question. So you got on all the questions,
Number one.
You got agree, strongly agree, disagree, et cetera, right? Go ahead.
You've got strongly agree, unsure, disagree, and strongly disagree. So it's just shades of a couple of different answers there to be given. But number one, Charlie Kirk's assassination marks a turning point in American politics. I would say I agree, but that comes with a qualifier. Conservatives have taken far worse over the course of the last several decades and never really had any sort of lasting discontent. It certainly has the possibility. I mean, you're seeing thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people around the world coming out. But conservatives have to go back to work, and they can only remain active in the streets for so long. I would say agree, but that's with an asterisk. That his assassination. Okay, number two, political violence against public figures is becoming more frequent in the United States. Strongly agree on that for me.
Strongly agree.
Number three, America remains a country where both sides can freely express their opinions. I would say disagree instead of strongly disagree. You can still do it, but there is always a price to pay.
And I put strongly disagree. Go ahead.
Media coverage of Kirk's assassination has been fair. It depends on what media you watch, because there's more than there's two polar opposite medias where people can get their information from. Are we talking about?
This is the question, right?
I would have to say unsure.
Okay, there you go. It's a fair statement. I'm not here to decide what you say. I'm just here to say that's the question.
No. That's my answer. What would be yours on that one, though?
I said strongly disagree. I don't think the media's been fair.
Interesting. Well, I mean, our side has, but then again,
we don't even have the evidence. We just have this guy's guilty, and they say they have all kinds of evidence, but the core evidence that I'm looking for, they haven't delivered at all. For example, I've never even been told if the bullets match the gun.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, and we didn't even get into that today. All that is a conversation that needs to be had as well.
Agreed.
We're taking everything at face value.
I strongly disagree. The media has not been fair.
A healthy civic society requires respect for political opponents. I say strongly disagree because I'm for eradicating them. But anyway, Sam.
And I strongly agree. We need to have respect for everybody. We need to be kind to people and have, we need to have civil respect for people, even if we disagree with them. I mean, back in the day, the Tories or, the King George folks and hey, you don't have to just mow people down on the streets because you disagree. We got to have some healthy respect for one another. That's just a Christian value that I try to, All right, next one.
All right, bipartisan condemnation of Kirk's killing helps bring the country together. I would say yes, but it hasn't happened.
Well, so strongly agree. What do you?
I would agree. I mean,
I strongly agree.
Nothing's going to really bring the country together, but
yeah, our prayers are that I don't know what a country means, but to me, I hope a righteous contingent is ready to receive the Savior when he returns, and I hope to be part of that if I'm alive. All right, next one.
Politically motivated violence should be punished with harsher penalties than other crimes. I would disagree because again, then you're getting into motive.
Yeah, you become the thought police. I strongly disagree. Go ahead.
You've already got crimes for everything out there. And this is what Bondi was getting into. If they're politically motivated violence, it's got to come with like an enhancement. I disagree with that. Maybe even strongly. Celebrating the death of public figures on social media should be grounds for employer actions. I disagree. I love seeing these people getting fired because I hate them, but, we've all done it. Not necessarily celebrating, but anyway, yes.
Yeah, the point is that it's suggesting that government should dictate that, and I don't think so. Each employer can decide whatever they want to. In my company, who will decide if people get fired or not? The answer is me. Why? Because it's my company. Got it? Good. Don't need government to decide what I do. Next.
Yeah, I agree that I disagree with that.
Agreed.
Number 9, young Americans face work economic prospects and harsher civic climate than their parents. Strongly agree.
Strongly agree.
Number 10, progressive and communist ideology has a strong influence on U.S. colleges. I mean, if there was actually an answer that's stronger than strongly agree, I would take that one. This one's just
Roger
off the
that. Agreed.
charts.
Oh, yeah. Super strongly agree.
Number 11, college administrators. This has been the most fun segment of the day, and they're all great always. College administrators protect free speech for all viewpoints. This is another one where if there was a level beneath strongly disagree, we would go there. No,
Yeah,
college
we
administrators
super
do not
strongly disagree.
protect free speech.
We agree that we super
Kirk's
strongly disagree.
Kirk's death will energize conservative activism in America. I agree for now. I do not know how long that will last.
Say it one more time.
Kirk's death will energize conservative activism in America. I say I agree, but conservatives have, really short attention and activism spans.
And I would agree, strongly agree. I would say that it has, and we got to make sure it continues.
Oh, no, it's absolutely has. Just again, how long will this energy last?
And I pray that it lasts for a long time. I pray that we start to stand up for our values way more than we have hitherto done. That's for sure. And that's why I take the call for civility and turn it into a campaign for civility. I want to go on the speaking trail and tell the tale, people. I want to stand up and be bold and clear. And I pray that I live through it. That's all.
All right, 4 minutes left and 4 questions to go. Kirk's assassination should be remembered as an attack on free speech. I'm unsure about that.
I would say so. The only reason he was attacked is because he tried to use his free speech to debate and discuss. So
okay, I think it's that and more, though. I mean, these
you're right.
People. I mean, I think it's remembered as just hate-filled people with a hate-filled ideology taking out an opponent. But worldwide tributes to Charlie Kirk show this is good versus evil, not left versus right. I disagree with that. I think the left is evil. So they're sort of one and the same. It's sort of a tricky question, but I don't think it's necessarily good versus evil, or it is good versus evil.
I would strongly agree that it's good versus evil. The problem is when you pick sides like that and say the left is evil. See, that's where I disagree. Because it assumes the right is righteous.
Number 15.
That's not the truth, right? The right is just as evil as the left half the time.
Again, who are we defining as right?
Now, it's the right that's protecting Jeffrey Epstein right now, just to make the point.
Well, that's a good. It was George Bush right? I mean, what is right to you? I mean, to a lot of people, Charlie Kirk was like far right, white supremacist.
And that's why I say it's good versus evil, not left versus right. So anyway, there you go. All right, next one.
All right, number 15. Political leaders should take bipartisan action to reject political violence. Well, I would strongly agree with that.
Yeah, I strongly agree. Sure. We should all do that everywhere, not just political leaders, but all kinds of leaders. Everywhere we should do that.
Sort of a no-brainer there on that one. Number 16, what do you see as the biggest, this isn't a strongly agree or disagree. What do you see as the biggest factor undermining political tolerance today? Partisan media, social media, political rhetoric, or college campus culture?
And I put the media, the first one.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think they
colleges are
so
bad.
Much of it. I agree, but colleges are bad only because the media has taken that. If the media would call the halt to the con game and tell the truth and everything else, a lot of this would change because people would on campus see the truth. And it's the media cover-up and the media involvement that causes, in my mind, the biggest problem.
Well, media affects everybody. College campuses only affect people in college. And I guess, for the rest of their lives, it could have a tangential effect. But yeah, media, I would say, harms everybody every day. Last question, and this is just an open-ended fill-in-the-blank type of thing. What lessons have you personally taken from Charlie Kirk's death? I would just answer this simply saying, I don't know where we're going, but we're never going back.
I would say what I'm taking from Charlie Kirk is he was bold. He didn't back down. He wasn't always right. His opinions changed. He got more educated over time like all of us do. And I think we take that as a playbook and say, we've got to step up and we've got to change and grow and learn. And what's the way forward? You don't know, and I don't know, but I know this. My way forward for Sam Bushman is going to be to say it's not about the left or the right. It's not about anything but good versus evil. It's Christ versus Antichrist. And I in my house, we will serve the Lord. I'll stand with Christ. I'll testify of Christ. I'll speak of Christ. And I'll tell you that Christ has the solutions to the problems we face.
Charlie Kirk, you're right about that. That's something that needs to be remembered. His positions on very key and fundamental issues today are almost a negative image or an inverted mirror of where he was 5 years ago on some things. Now, some things he was consistent on forever. And I'm not saying that that is inconsistent or bad. It is to your point, Sam, that people
progress.
can be presented with evidence and evolve in their thinking. And that's what we hope a lot of people can do. But nevertheless, very, very tragic thing, his killing for his wife, his two beautiful young children. Thank you, Sam, for everything you do and for your tireless work every day for 30 plus years. I love you, brother.
I'll tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. It's up to us to decide what is it going to mean to us and what are we going to do. I believe it's the family and the individuals that need to make up the big gap here. You can't look to a leader. You can't look to Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump or anybody else. We don't believe in kings. We don't believe in, the answer is we the people and God-ordained family. Society will mirror the fundamental unit, which is the family. I pray for our God, our family, and our country. Hope you do the same. LovingLiberty.net. God save our republic.